Renee, hi.
Hi, Roy.
So good to meet you again.
Yeah, good to see you.
Costa Rica, what a lovely place.
I know, I think the last time was South Africa or something.
Was it South Africa or Vancouver? I mean, the wonderful
One of those.
thing all over the world we travel.
Yes.
Now,
Nice when you can't keep track because so many wonderful places.
brilliant. And looking forward to a great event here. Your great aunt did a LifeBook with us
Yes,
3-4 years ago now.
yes.
And you were telling me the story earlier about how you had to persuade her to do it and
Yes.
why you wanted to do it. I'd love you
Yes.
to share that with me.
Sure, so this is my Aunt Marion,
Yeah?
and it's my grandmother's sister on my mom's side, and they live out in Long Island, and she was the kind of family archivist. She had all the pictures, she knew all the stories, all our family history that goes back quite some time out on Long Island, and it's a story that I grew up with over the summers. Every summer going out there, it's kind of my touchstone place, and hearing her talk about how life was, all the people, just the family history. And she was getting older. I was getting really worried that this was all going to kind of disappear. And my mother even said that once. She's like, I'm just worried that her, daughter won't keep the pictures. All of it's going to go away. So when I met you, I was like, oh my gosh, I can do something.
Yeah.
I can capture this and keep these great family stories and give this as a gift not only to her but to all our families, to my children who kind of know her but then their children won't, etc. So
But she wasn't that keen.
I was going to say, but I had a resistant customer here, and she was very she's a very proud woman and a little more almost like a British background of like, hey, private's private and I'll tell family. And so when I said, hey, I've got this great idea, we'll do a book, and she's like, I'm not doing that. And then you have the interviewer, which is lovely, comes. So I said, well, let's arrange that and let's try it. And she's out on Long Island, and I surprise her with this visit. She's like, I'm not letting that person in. But I said, let's go with manners. And she did. And this became a wonderful experience. Yes, had the interviewer
You
show
arranged for
up.
this person to come without telling her, without getting her agreement.
No, I didn't.
Oh my God.
And you were lovely because you worked with me. I was like, Roy, if this doesn't go well, you're like, we'll work it out, Renee.
You're brave, yeah.
But I did, and it was out on Long Island, so I'm traveling out there and showing up at her house and saying, there's somebody at the door. She's like, really? I said, let's go with manners.
Yeah.
And so she's like, looked at me, but then she put her smile on, her game face, let the lady in,
Yeah.
and she ended up being, wonderful experience, especially as it went on. They built a bond. My aunt later fell and had to be in the hospital. It was this woman who went and visited her.
Her interviewer.
Her interviewer. They became kind of friends and confidants, and it became a wonderful experience for my aunt. Not to mention that we have this book now that I gave to her before she passed away, and it was, just in time. She thanked me for it. She loved it. I gave it to family. Family wrote me notes saying thank you so much. And I think my mother came in as the editor at the end, was very happy because she felt like all of this was going to disappear, and we have the pictures in the book.
Yeah.
We have the history, and we put it in the local library. So
There's
it's
a
out
copy in
on
the
Long
library.
Island
Wow.
forever of our family and these stories and just how life was. I think it's more than her story. It's a story of a period of time. How life used to be then is a time capsule, and I think it's important. I see it as values of a simple life that I can remind my children and their children about.
And something they're not going to be able to Google.
No, they
Because
can't Google it.
it's facts that happened in her life at the time.
So it's a very personal passing on, I think, of a value system and what was important and how life was.
It's wonderful that you've got the book, it's in the library, the family's got it. But what I really enjoyed was you telling me about the experience, because when I started this for my father, it was about giving him something to look forward to.
Yes.
And you had this resistant customer
Yes,
that didn't
yes.
want to do it. But once she started, she looked forward to those meetings and
She
stayed
did.
friends with the interviewer afterwards.
She did, and I was so thankful since, again, for me, it's like a 7 or 8 hour trip to get out there, because it's not just flying to New York, it's like driving out on the island in a remote area. And I was so thankful when she fell that the interviewer was going and visiting her in the hospital. I mean, her daughter didn't even do that, just family lore here, but unfortunately, that lady was actually better than our family members by going to the hospital, and I was so thankful that she was keeping her spirits up. So it became more than a book experience. It became really a very helpful support system.
It's one of our challenges is quite often is, and you voiced it right at the beginning, is to how to persuade people to talk about themselves.
Yes.
And that, yes, it is all right.
Yes.
and that they can have a legacy. Whatever life they led, it's important to the family.
Yes.
And that's a challenge we face. And so doing a conversation like this helps other people realize it's worth that fight.
I would say just go for it. Go with manners.
Yes.
If the person shows up, they will probably let them in and be nice for that visit. And by the end of it, I mean, you hire great people or interviewers that have a good way of, making people feel comfortable and getting them engaged. And once that starts, I mean, like you say, people love their lives and their stories.
Yeah.
And once they get into talking about that, they realize that's very enjoyable.
Our interviewers love doing it. And
yes, they're very good at it.
Our criteria for an interview is empathy, active listening, and culture.
Yes.
And the rest we can train.
Yes.
But you have to be able to sit, listen, and encourage someone to open up.
Yes.
Sometimes painful, sometimes fun. It doesn't matter, but they actually enjoy telling those stories.
Yes.
Thank you so
lovely.
much.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad I found you.